A great many therapists and psychologists and counselors and others in the psych industry have a deeply and fundamentally disordered view of humanity and what constitutes healthy behavior and good habits of thought and action. If therapy has any chance of helping you at all, it depends largely on the assumption that the therapist will have correct and useful insights into life and the human condition. But there is no license, there's no degree, there's no resume, there's no credential that ensures that someone is wise and insightful, much less that they have a correct understanding of the human condition. And what we find in many cases is that the people in this industry not only have no special insight into any of this, but in fact are more confused than half of the people who come to see them seeking guidance. But the pitfalls with therapy don't just lie with the fact that so many therapists are bad and stupid. Before we can even get to the point of analyzing the quality of the therapist, we have to deal with the problems inherent to the very practice of therapy itself. And the biggest one is this, that many people go to therapy simply because they want to talk about themselves. It feeds their narcissistic impulse to talk incessantly and think incessantly about themselves. This is the real reason why therapy is so popular in our culture and why it becomes more popular with each generation. It's not that mental health is declining, it's that narcissism is increasing. And narcissism is not so much a mental health problem as a character flaw. And this is primarily what drives the mad rush to therapy. Lots of narcissists who are willing to pay by the hour just to have the privilege of having a 60-minute block reserved exclusively to conversation focused on themselves. But this is exactly the opposite of what many of these people need. What they need instead is to stop talking about themselves, stop thinking about themselves, stop dwelling on their own petty problems, stop trying to make every obstacle they face into some great saga of trial and triumph, and instead just go live their lives with some humility and sense of perspective. The best advice anyone can give you for 90% of the problems that you bring to a therapist is this: get over yourself and quit whining. Go for a jog, get a hobby. Do something more interesting with your life than constantly analyzing your own feelings. Your feelings aren't that interesting or important. Are you sad? Are you stressed out? Well, welcome to human existence. Okay, that's part of the bargain. Not every difficult emotion or personal experience needs to be hashed out and analyzed and focused on. You shouldn't even need to talk about most of it. Life is hard. Yours probably isn't as hard as you think. If you have enough money to spend $150 an hour to talk about yourself, that automatically means you have an easier life than like 3 billion other people on the planet. I mean, there is a whole family starving to death in a hut made out of plywood somewhere in the world while you cry to a therapist that your dad missed your dance recital when you were 7 years old. This doesn't mean that none of your problems are serious, but it does mean that most of them probably aren't. Most of your complaints you should keep to yourself and tell no one and move on with your life. You should have a whole host of worries and concerns that you have never told anyone, that nobody knows about, because you carry them yourself with quiet dignity. If you are the sort of person who has never had a problem you didn't tell someone about, or a complaint you didn't complain about, then therapy is the last thing you need. Except for the therapy I'm giving you right now, the therapy that says, grow up, you whiny child. This is what a huge number of therapy customers need to hear, but they won't hear it because most therapists won't say it or anything like it. That's because, and here's the really big ingrained problem, the therapist's income depends on your not getting over yourself. There is a conflict of interest here. It's the same conflict of interest every time Apple releases a new phone. You know, we know that if the phone is too good, if it's too durable, if it works too well, if it's too reliable, then you're not going to need to buy another one for a long time. And that's why they always make sure that the products will not be durable or reliable. Last month, the company behind the Instant Pot filed for bankruptcy. Instant Pot was a phenomenon just a few years ago. Everyone in the country went out and bought one. Now the company's going under. Why? Well, the product was too good. Everybody bought one. And nobody needed to buy another one because Instant Pots work and they stay working for several years at least. The company made the mistake of creating a well-made, durable product, a mistake that not many companies in America make these days, and even fewer will now. This is also the issue for therapists. If they give you the Instant Pot version of therapy, if their therapy is useful and efficient and effective and offers durable, practical, long-lasting solutions, then you're not going to need to come back every week and pay $150 an hour to rehash the same issues over and over again. The therapist will have helped you become a better, more stable, more well-adjusted person, but he'll have lost a revenue stream at the same time. Some therapists, a small minority, are willing to make that trade, but most are not. So this is where we're left. If therapy will have any chance of helping you at all, the therapist would need to be a very wise person with a keen understanding of the human condition, great moral insight, enough life experience to serve as a competent guide, whose objective is to stop earning money from you. Okay? The good therapist is one who doesn't want your money anymore, who wants you to get over it and move on, and actually possesses the wisdom, skill, intelligence, character, and insight to guide you in that direction. Now, this sort of therapist certainly does exist. They exist out there in the wild world, but they are very, very rare. Most come from a more common stock, the sort of therapist who counsels the lost and confused and narcissistic, but is just as lost, confused, and narcissistic as they are.